My name is Laurie, and this is my autism shift story. Okay, so I'm sharing my story. It's interesting because I have to go back to my childhood because I always joke and I consider myself a self-diagnosed sensory kid. And I'm pretty sure that from what my parents tell me, my first year in kindergarten, I sat in the corner sucking my thumb and twirling my hair for the whole year. And social situations were extremely hard for me. So I think my shift is personal. And the older I got, the more I realized I was different. And I wasn't quite sure why or how. And 30 or 40 years ago, they didn't have a name for it. So maybe I would have been diagnosed on the autism spectrum if I were in school now. Who knows? I know that I had a lot of things that were sensory based and a lot of anxiety and fears and things like that. So for me, when I started to realize that I could affect the world in a bigger way, and I was able to get outside of myself as I started to do volunteer work. I actually went to an alternative high school because of some behavioral issues that I had, and through that I had one of the requirements was that I volunteer at a school for children with disabilities, and at that time all of the children, no matter what the disability was, went to the same school. And we were bused. Well, we were, because I was in the alternative school next door to this for children behavioral problems, and then right next door were children with disabilities. Anyway, I volunteered at the other school, and I started to learn about myself and how I could affect others, and I guess my shift was in that moment, in that time, when I realized that the world's bigger than just what was in my head and what was going on inside of me. And I made a commitment that at that time, that because these kids taught me so much, my life felt so blessed, and I started to learn about myself, that I was going to somehow do that as a career, as a life purpose, if you will, as much as an adolescent can decide those things. So anyway, I think my shift is really personal. As I started to connect at that school as a volunteer, my grades started to get a little bit better. My teachers started to notice a difference in me. My parents started to notice a difference in me. It was sort of like I was coming out of my shell, and just had purpose in my life. So it took me a few years. I wasn't the best student, but when I finally decided to go to college, I kind of fell into occupational therapy because at the school that I volunteered at, I ended up getting a job, and I worked there as a teacher's aide for 6 years before I went back to college, and I would always hang out with the OTs. On all my breaks, I'd be going to OT and with the kids in my class, and the therapists were just really supportive and kept telling me I should go to school. So when I went to school, got through college, it just made sense. Like, occupational therapy made sense because I started to understand myself through the education I was getting. And as I started to understand myself, I started to realize that there are a lot of people, a lot of kids in this world who wouldn't have to go through the trauma that I went through if I could connect with them at a young age. And that's been my life purpose. And I was just blessed. Somehow, OT was sent to me, occupational therapy was sent to me, and I somehow, with all of my learning disabilities and all of my social anxieties and all of my challenges, I got through it. And some days I look back and I think, other than like divine intervention, I don't know how I did it. But I'm so grateful that I did, because now I have purpose. And so when I started working with kids, it was really funny because I would just meet kids where they were, and it was just natural. It just is natural. And I would have parents say, "How did you get them? Why? They're just looking you right in the eye, and they're connecting with you immediately." And I didn't know why. Maybe I still don't know why, other than I meet them where they are. And I believe that children on the autism spectrum, with autism spectrum disorder, are just kids. We're all just kids. We're all just humans, and I don't know what they can't do, and I don't think about what they can't do. I think about the heart connection, and I have yet to meet a child who I don't have a heart connection with. I have yet to meet a parent who I don't have a heart connection with. And for me, you know, if we give kids time and space to process what we're asking them, and if we give kids time and space to be themselves, they will show us their gifts. I couldn't do it the traditional way. I didn't learn the traditional way. But I had a lot of angels in my life that came along and just believed in me and just saw me for who I was. And, you know, a lot of times I think, man, I don't want to change these kids. Not a lot of times, all the time. I don't want to change kids. I just want to give them the opportunity to shine, because the gifts that they have, the gifts that I have, the gifts that we have, sometimes are hidden underneath of things, of expectations, of fears and anxieties, of brain connections that are missing. But they're there, like our gifts are there. And when we give kids the opportunity to shine, they will. And when we give kids the opportunity to, without expectation, to just believe in them and just connect with them where they are in the moment they're in it, and just have that heart connection, kids will amaze us. And if they do it every day of my career, every day of my life, I see, and I'm a believer, because I see kids shine, and I see kids share their gifts, and I'm so blessed. I don't know, like for me, it's not even a diagnosis. It's just another way of being. We are all different, and thank God we're all different, because how boring would life be if we were all the same?